Boy, do I enjoy holy books. Isn't something people say. In fact, Grammar Check underlined it. When I right-click on it, it says, I mean, technically the words are in the right order, but that is not what you meant, dude. But maybe that's because not enough holy books take the time to really develop their characters, or at least that seems to be the thinking behind the 5th book of the Pearl of Great Price, which is called Joseph Smith History, but should more aptly wear the title, All the Stuff You've Heard About Me is Bullshit. And, of course, joining us for this penultimate installment of the Pearl of Great Price is my lovely wife, Lucinda. Lucinda, welcome back.
You know, I don't really care how many candles you light in here. This is not romantic, and it's hot as fuck.
Those are here to mask the smell. Let's get to the book, damn it.
Okay, so you know how a lot of perfectly ethical people often have to start autobiographical works by going, pretty much all the stuff you've heard about me is a goddamn lie? Well, this is one of those.
Yeah.
Kevin Sorbo's Twitter protests less than the opening sentence of this section of this holy book.
You might have heard that we keep murdering people, but I'm here to tell you about an angel.
Don't answer yet. Yeah.
Quack, quack, quack.
Yeah. So we start in 1805 with Joey Smith being born. Shortly after his birth, his dad left Vermont. Fled would not be the correct word.
No.
Left would.
Yeah.
And he headed to Palmyra, New York.
And then he described the burnt over district getting burnt over, right? He talks about how there was an unusual excitement on the subject of religion. Read, everybody and their brother was concocting a new religion and some dumbass would follow them.
Yeah, think California in the early 90s, but with Christianity instead of Asian sounding.
Yeah, right. Right.
It was at this point in history when everybody made up their own religion. Kind of weird that God chose that point in time to reveal himself to a new prophet. Never mind Backsies. I would like to declare Backsies.
Just two different guys dressed up like Jesus. They're like lowering themselves down from the rafters of a church on a robe. Hey, you're dibs. I said dibs.
Oh,
no, I'm
too
doing
late.
this
You were
here.
late.
Come on, man.
Nope, it's okay. I'll
You
go
saw
back
me
up.
setting up before you. There's a lot of churches.
Winch myself up.
All right, so then he describes the desperate effort to pull new converts into your religion like it was like some clergy on clergy kumite or something.
Yeah. And we get a little piece of Joe Smith's cult leader origin story here. He marvels at how all these ministers were using a combination of reason and sophistry. He's so excited. He's like, you can mix them? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, but then he read James 1:5 and he's all like, right, the Bible makes perfect sense. Obviously, I can just ask my head which religion is right, and my God brain will verify it with an unverifiable warmth in my gut or something.
Yep.
Right. And spoiler alert, the answer his head, God, brain, gut came up with was, you are God.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So at the age of 15, he escapes to the woods to do some serious praying. So, you know, like if a 15-year-old boy ever needs to be far away from when anyone can see or hear them, it's probably because they're praying a lot, really loud.
You'll pray on the toilet.
Nice. So he goes out to the woods to pray to God to tell him which church is real. But wouldn't you know it, Satan shows up and seizes his tongue so he can't pray.
Right. Yeah. So Joey wrestles Satan for a bit.
He does.
Natural.
Yeah. But then, of course, he's losing. So he tags in a pillar of light and Satan runs off like the bitch that he is.
Oh, snap.
Just classic story. You're out in the woods learning to masturbate, and then Satan grabs your tongue, and then God shows up in a pillar of light, but turns out it's a spotlight, and you're on stage during a school play. We've all had this nightmare.
Have we?
Happens to the best.
Nightmare origin story.
Dick's a wheel of cheese? It's a wheel of cheese. What does that mean?
Well, when you know it, inside the pillar of light was God and Jesus.
Yes. And I love God in this because he basically acts like, you know, like Jesus is a 3-year-old that he has to coax into thanking Joey for the candy or something. He's like, this is my son, Jesus. Jesus, what do you say to the nice man?
Yeah, God is somewhere between Jesus's opening act and his hype man.
Yeah. I think of it as like the putting the dog on the phone of religions, right? It's like, hi, Scruffy, can you put grandma back on so I can figure out her will. It's about this.
All right, so Joey gets done either being visited by God or having a seizure or falling asleep and dreaming or just making shit up. It's one of those four things. So he gets done with one of those four things, and he heads home to tell his family that God and Jesus say that he doesn't have to wake up early and go to church anymore.
Yeah, and if I can make a quick recommendation to the listeners, check out this section of the Mormon Church's website. Like, every second word is footnoted, but not with any meaning or source. Someone just told them real things have footnotes, so they went just bananas. Bananas.
They did.
Yeah, they didn't do it right either. It was like little letters before the word instead of numbers after the word. So they didn't really get the footnotes thing. But they did actually link those. If you click on them, there's verses from the Bible that pop up on the right side of the thing. When text on the internet is blue, you can click on it. But that's the book that God just told Joe Smith is from false religions is what they're linking to.
Right, exactly. Well, then a few days later, he was chatting with some Methodists, and he casually mentioned that God and Jesus had appeared before him in the woods, and they told him Methodism was a blasphemy that offended him. And out of the blue, the Methodists started acting like a bunch of assholes and persecuting him.
Like out of nowhere.
And Jebediah, I know I owe you money. Hey, that reminds me, you know who I was talking to the other day? Jesus.
Yeah.
You guys want to hear what Jesus told me about the young boys in your congregation? We're on the subject of that.
Well, and then he uses how pissed off they were as proof that he must be onto something, right? He's like, wait, I'm just some 15-year-old kid of no consequences, so why would such learned men freak out just because I, a veritable no one, took a steaming shit on their pulpit in the middle of the service? That's how I knew the devil was behind their faith.
Yeah, really hoping the Mormon Church keeps that in mind when I literally do that at Heath and I's planned Mormon testimony.
Infinite dueling piano testimony. Yes. Oh.
And then when you think about it, that makes Joey pretty much exactly like the Apostle Paul, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote that even before he died in jail.
Yeah, no, it gets better and better. Yeah, okay. So we rejoin Joey years later. He's 18. Everybody in the entire world hates him because he has visions, just like all the kids hated me in school because they were so jealous of my talent.
Yeah, everyone loved me. I got my own lunch table and everything. It's all mine.
One-man masturbation show on the stage. Yeah, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And I shut the fuck up about my masturbation visions, so I managed to get by.
Well, okay, so then Joey admits that he hasn't always been a saint.
Really?
He confesses to certain sins. And here's, according to Joey, the worst shit he did when he fell into the foolish errors of youth. He was guilty of levity.
Oh, well, that was pretty
so
bad.
Also, he associated with jovial people, God forbid.
Feels like an ethnic slur in there.
Yeah. That is a full and complete catalog of his youthful indiscretions.
Well, he didn't inhale the jovial people, though.
Jovial people, like from New York. It sounds like Trump opening a speech below the Mason-Dixon line in this section and just then, I haven't always been perfect. I'm a rapist.
Let me finish. Oh, you guys are letting me finish. I didn't have a follow-up. Hillary's a woman.
Lock her up.
We voted for you. Babies in cages.
Open your Bibles to I Corinthians.
All right, so then Maroney shows up in his bedroom, which is the only reason Mom heard weird noises coming from his bedroom. Nothing sinful. It was angels and visions and God and shit.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear Joey even try to describe Maroney in a non-homoerotic way.
Never happened.
No, I'd love to hear his attempt at it, though. But instead, we hear all about how Maroney's robe was quite revealing, and he didn't have anything on underneath it.
Nope.
Also, he was crazy hot.
Beautiful was the adjective used over and over.
He was yummy.
Yep, pounded in the butt by the ghost of an ancient white Native American Jew.
And seriously, we're not exaggerating. Exact words. I could discover that he had no other clothing on but this robe as it was open so that I could see into his bosom. That's an exact quote. And that's the end of an entire paragraph before that about how the angel is the pinnacle of whiteness and brilliance. So you're looking for a white power gay erotic novel, well, there's a bunch of way better examples, but like check out the Mormon Holy Books.
Yeah, right.
And we tried to make you throw out your collection.
Oh, no. All right. So Moroni identifies himself and tells him about the magic book buried at the magic hill that he can read with the magic glasses and the magic rock.
Right. But, and this is important, Moroni tells him that he's not allowed to let anybody verify that any of this stuff exists, right? If he tries to show any of it to anybody or even let him feel its weight, God will murder him. So asking for proof is saying you want him to die if you think about it, really.
Yeah, Mormonism is the Nigerian prince with a locked bank account of religions.
It really is.
Yes.
And it's only white people in Nigeria. But yeah, same
So
idea.
I know it's Moroni, but I like Moroni macaroni. He fucks off. But as you'll likely recall, Moroni has a long series of, one other thing, appearances still to make.
Right. And by this telling, by the way, the second time Moroni shows up, he says all the same words without variation. Right? Like Joey had listened all the way around and the recording started again.
Turns on Moroni's bass boost, turns on shuffle.
So Moroni leaves again and then shows up a third time to say, also, I know you're a disgusting poor person, but, try not to sell the plates, okay?
Yeah.
I keep finding these at the pawn shop. Come on, man.
They're on
Keep doing
eBay
that.
constantly. Okay. But eventually, Moroni leaves for the last time that night. Joey's got to get up and go to work because the fucking angel bothered him all damn night. He hadn't got any sleep. So he's super tired and he can't work very well. So he gets sent home.
Yep. Very first consequence of Joey's divine vision. He gets to duck out of work early.
Yep.
Lucky guy.
Or in other words, he's a liar. If you really believe that an angel just made you a prophet of God that evening, you don't wake up and go to work at TGI Fridays the next day. Try to get somebody to pick up your dinner shift. Like, no, you're not. You're a prophet now.
All right, so he goes to the magic hill that Moroni had told him about because, he's awake enough to do that. He's just not awake enough to do manual labor, guys.
Oh, Joe, if you're too sick for school today, I guess we can't go to the zoo.
No, I'm fine. I can go to the zoo. No. Look at me.
Jumping jacks.
I'm running. Zoo.
He treks up the hill, opens the box, sees the gold plates and all the other various quest items, but Moroni won't let him take any of them. He's just allowed to look at them.
Right, yeah.
Can't
I'm just
take
saying, if Moroni puts Joseph's dick in a cage, I've read this book.
And I've been on this D&D campaign also that Eli created.
Also, I know this is kind of random, but Joey has mentioned about 3 times in this single chapter about how poor his dad was. I want to be clear. He was an adult in the 1800s. It was him that was broke, right? The fact that he was still living with his broke-ass dad makes him all the more broke. He was broke to the second power. Nothing wrong with that, mind you. But, I've been there more often than I've not. But when I never blamed my fucking dad.
Yeah, no, I'm going to need you to pull that back. Blaming our dad is pretty much all my generation has left at this point in history. So.
I feel like you could blame my dad, actually. He's a boomer.
You could blame stamps for being so tricky.
Yeah, right. Well,
Yep,
and if you
sure.
lick them now, it makes them less sticky. It's so weird.
Dads need to do more toothpick pranks. That's how you learn. I'm just saying.
Oh,
That's right.
No,
Toughen everybody up.
Turned out great.
I did.
Eventually, you guys,
happy.
Joey got a good job looking for a mythical silver mine in New York State. Pretty sure the nearest significant silver deposit would be in Nevada. But that's when he became a money digger. So.
Yeah, he became a money digger. And I want to be super clear on this. There is not a non-con artist version of that job, right? He's a professional snipe hunter here.
Yeah, certainly not when Joey was doing it.
No, but not even when honest. Well, there weren't no. Yeah, right. It was like I was an honest tarot card reader. No, you weren't.
And he wasn't even good at that scam. He tried to start a pyramid scheme, but got confused by how the geometry on that works.
And if all 5 of you just signs up half a person, fuck.
So now if I dig up more, nothing, fuck. Hold on. It's not, it's just me?
So also at this point, he meets Emma Hale and marries her. Now, that would be foreshadowing if this book was honest, but it's not. So it isn't. It's just the only marriage we're going to talk about.
Yeah, but to be clear, Emma's dad did not approve of the union. And it wasn't because he was a professional con artist either with no prospects. It was because those visions that people persecuted him over.
Yeah.
Mr. Hale, can I have your daughter's hand in marriage? Are you the Messiah? Too slow. Too slow. That needs to be right away. No.
All right. So then finally on verse 59 of 75, he gets the goddamn plates already.
Oh, I was hoping for way more why my father-in-law really doesn't like me stuff. So.
Right.
Fine.
But Moroni's like, look, man, the second you take those plates, invisible monsters are going to start trying to grab them from you, okay? So do not give those plates to the invisible monsters.
He
all right?
totally does. All right. So it's at this point in the history that Joey realizes his story needs a little bit of academic cred. So, he can't send the plates off to be checked, of course, on account of the angel being too shy and whatnot, but he can copy the characters that were on the plates onto a piece of paper and then send that paper to real academics. So he did that.
Yeah, this is where we meet Professor Charles Anthon, who took one look at Joey's glyphs and his translation and immediately declared it, quote, correct, more so than any he had before seen translated from the Egyptian. End quote.
It's the most correct translation.
Professor Anthon would later go on to write Trump's doctor note.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
As you can see, my Egyptian translation is perfect. It says, I am, you are, he is, we are, you all are, they are. So
I am a lovely bunch of coconuts.
I am a prophet of God.
Yeah.
Where is the library?
I know you guys sound like you're doubting him. So look, the professor gave Joey a certificate of authenticity proving that these were real characters from real golden plates that were the truest thing ever written. But just as he was about to leave, he let it slip that he learned about this through vision. So the professor took back the certificate and tore it up, and there's no evidence anywhere of it.
I love that even in his own book, the academic is like, this is a total bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did you say through visions? Okay, now this story about red people turning white after they meet Jesus written on plates I'm not allowed to see is starting to sound ridiculous.
All right, speaking of ridiculous, this is also where we meet Oliver Cowdery, who I've always considered kind of the Hodor of early Mormon history. Anyway, he heard about these golden plates. He wanted to know more about Joey being the chosen representative of God, so he sought him out.
And lo, the prophet did spy many spots on my shirt, but when I looked, they were always miraculously gone.
So Joey and Ollie get to work on plate translating. But one day they take a break for some totally heterosexual wood spraying.
Uh-huh.
When John the Baptist came along and leveled them up to super priest.
Or in reality, Joe made Oliver close his eyes. Then they had a splash fight, and Joe was like, "You guys are waterbenders." What?
That was John the Baptist.
Did you hear what that angel said? We're waterbenders.
All right, so then they baptize each other. So if you heard they were naked in the pond laying hands upon each other, it was for a totally different reason. It was a scurrilous rumor. They were baptizing each other because God had told them to baptize each other.
Hot. Then immediately after their baptisms, they're overcome with so many prophecies. For every one Oliver had, Joey had another even better one. And then Oliver would have an even better one.
You can't have infinity times infinity blessings, Oliver.
I don't even understand those. I was just repeating stuff that you said. I'm a waterbender.
Oh, I also love this bit at the end. It says a lot about the perfect word of God here. Joey's like, and once we'd received this magical blessing in the woods, suddenly we would read the Bible and we're like, oh, right, I get what they're going for here. Right? Like that's how they knew they'd leveled up because the perfect book started making some kind of sense.
What? Okay, and then the book wraps up, but they tack on 8 more long paragraphs of Oliver Cowdery thinly veiling how much he wants to fuck Joseph Smith.
That was
It
so
really
awkward
does.
to read that last part of like, oh, Joey's got such a nice butt. I mean, like
Wish
it was
his
tight,
pipe was
but
open.
you could still squeeze it and that would resist a bit.
Like Heath's Twitter mentions the holy book.
Nobody.
All right, well, that's going to do it for the penultimate chapter of the third best book ever published, according to the Mormons. So this last chapter must be fucking amazing. Or Mormons are full of shit. Find out which it is next month when we crack open the Pearl of Great Price for the last fucking time.
Thank fucking hell.
Where are our submarines?